Hey guys, how you doing this week? Hope things are well for you. Today we have a couple of great questions that have been sent in to us via email and or the webpage. So let's not waste any time. Go. Hey, welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask. I am your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so today, before we get started, I just wanted to throw out a couple of thank yous to the Capitalist Chicks and to William, who is sponsoring this week's episode. Thank you very much, William. Very much appreciate that contribution. If you guys are appreciative of what's going on here on the podcast, this stuff is helping you, then I did put up some links, as I was requested to by some of you, on the website so that you can make donations or basically buy me lunch or a coffee or lunch with beer or sponsor a podcast, and it helps deflect some of the costs associated with putting out the podcast. But if you don't have any extra green, don't worry about it. I put this stuff out for free to help as many people as possible because inner peace is the path to world peace. So thanks to you guys. Appreciate it. And let's get into today's topic, which is going to be, as promised, a couple of messages that we got over the last week that bring up some good questions regarding how to implement this stuff on a daily basis. And the first question comes in without a signature on it. I know you've done anger on the show and probably forgiveness. Yes, that's true. We did anger in episode 11, and we did forgiveness. I can't remember when, but it was sometime after that. I have so much anger, sadness, pessimism. It's a vicious cycle that I'm having a hard time getting out of. It's hard not to be angry at the stuff I see on the news. I work for the government that is now shut down. It's hard not to be angry about that. I drive. It's hard not to curse at other drivers. How do I let go? Okay, so this is a good example of an email from a person who is having, obviously, anger issues. And as we remember from Body, Mind, Spirit 101 in episode 11 and some of the episodes after that, we discussed various anger issues. Anger occurs subconsciously as a reaction to any attack on self or any slight against self or any slight against something that is attached to self. And that was a definition first posed by Aristotle, but now thousands of years later, it's basically been proven by science to be anger is universal across many cultures and is a subconscious reaction that is evolution's way to help us live another day. Because if we're attacked by some source, then anger is that defensive emotion to defend self and thus prolong life and live on another day. And so the way that works from a physiological perspective, like bear walks out of the woods and we go to the fight or flight response, that's that fight response. Anger is that fight, adrenaline pumped into your bloodstream type of assistance to help you live another day. It extends into the defense of our ideas, however. And that's where anger kind of goes off the track. And that's where anger can get out of control because your anterior cingulate cortex is kind of where the anger within the limbic system, right at the very tip, starts to create strife in your life. When you start to see things in the world, perceptions that come in through your head as attacks on whatever it is that you're attached to as your sense of self. And remember this sense of self map, all these things get attached to you, your ideas of self. It starts with the body, what you see in the mirror, but then starts to become your religion, your ideas of sexuality, your favorite sports teams, for instance, any ideas that you have in politics or on certain stances like pro-life, pro-choice, whatever it is, these things become attached and become a portion of your existence. And anytime something out in the world comes in to attack or slight or try to devalue anything on your attachment map, right? Imagine somebody, stranger coming up and slapping your kid. boom, big anger, right? And in most cases, many cases, anger is a healthy reaction in some ways, but when it's controlling you, it's unhealthy. When you're controlling it, that's when it can be more healthy, more productive, more useful for you. And especially when you can take the anger and let it go, drop it immediately after it starts occurring, that's when you really have control of your life and you can really decide what situations are appropriate for you to have the anger reaction and what situations aren't appropriate. So let's talk about these examples in this email. It's hard not to be angry at the stuff I see on the news. Okay, you weren't very specific, so I will say, let's say we're talking about the violence in the Middle East against the innocent people who are not involved in the fight, especially the gassing of the children and things like that we've seen on the news. Yeah, those types of things can trigger anger, and the idea that is being attacked in your head, the attachment is more of a humanity attachment. It is innocent people shouldn't be treated like that. You know, children especially should be kept out of any fight that is brought of government versus, or an idea of a government versus a different idea of a government. And so at the point that we see something happening in the world that is against an attachment that we have of self, which is, you know, these kids shouldn't be in this fight, they shouldn't be being hurt, and someone should step in to do something. When we see that no one's stepping in, when we see that innocent people are dying, then yeah, it can trigger anger inside of us. That's what's happening there, is the world is presenting a reality that is attacking your attachment to an idea. I work for the government that is now shut down, which has been reopened. It's hard not to be angry about that. Again, what are the things that we're looking at here? We have an attachment of self associated with your job, that your job is being threatened, your paycheck is being held back in that instance. Maybe you have an idea that the government shouldn't be like a bunch of 3-year-olds fighting over some toys, and they should do their job so that they aren't effectively or aren't negatively affecting other people's lives. Okay, so now you're seeing all of this stuff happen in the government, and it's shut down and yada, yada, yada. So the world is now attacking those ideas. They're devaluing the things that you hold dear. They're devaluing their job. They're devaluing your paycheck. They're devaluing the idea that you think government should work more efficiently. The world is attacking those. The world is slighting those ideas because it's not following through and delivering on those. So you have anger. I drive. It's hard not to curse at other drivers. I have a PhD on the research team associated with the algorithms of human emotion who specializes in angered or distracted driving. And we know that a slight on self, which is Aristotle's definition a long time ago, a slight on self or a slight on your friends, one of your attachments. A slight on self in the car causes anger. If somebody cuts you off, that is them telling you that they're more important than you are, and where they're going is more important than where you're going. Well, that's a slight against your existence. You can also have an idea of how other people should drive as an attachment of self in your head, as part of your world, as part of your you. You think people should drive up to the speed limit, so if somebody's driving slow in front of you, that pisses you off. If they are not using their turn signal, you think everybody in the world should use their turn signal, so that is attacking your idea of how people should drive, and that pisses you off. There are a number of things that you could be attached to in the car that the world then attacks by basically the world doing its thing, and you take it as a slight against the ideas of how you think things should occur. And that's why this anger is occurring. So how we take control of this is extremely methodological. One, we need to be able to see the process as it's occurring. You need to be able to identify, okay, what is my attachment? What is my expectation or preference in the equation of emotion? Because if you remember the equation of emotion, I have it down here somewhere on my floor, but expectation and or preference as compared to your reality as perceived equals the emotional reaction. And when specifically something from the world attacks something on your attachment map, attacks one of your expectations or preferences, that's when anger occurs. So you need to ask yourself, what is my expectation or preference that's being attacked here? What is the idea that is not being valued? Second, what is my perception? Because remember, it could be something coming in from the world that is causing your anger or causing your stress. But it is also your perception of that event that is causing your anger, right? Because someone could cut you off and you have two different perceptions about it. Or you get multiples, but let's talk about two. One, it could be, that guy is telling me he's more important than me. He's telling me where he's going is more important than where I'm going. And that will trigger anger if you see that as a slight against you. But if you see it as, oh, look at that idiot who just pulled in front of me. Or if you expect people to cut you off and you go, oh, well, there it is for today. This guy pulling in front of me. Okay, whatever. Your perception plays a role in your emotional outcome. So you can look at two different things of two different sides of the puzzle. You can look at your expectation and or preference and change that. Or you can change your perception about things and kind of adopt more of a shit happens or the world is as it is perspective. And that simple act of consciously looking at the things that cause your anger, as proven in a study in 2007 at UCLA, naming your emotion, seeing it happen in real time, puts a big, thick, black curtain or a big wall in between you and the emotion. You're not being controlled by the emotion anymore. You're not being as affected by the emotion as you would have been had you not been conscious about the whole process that caused your anger. So step one, identify exactly what's going on in the process that caused your anger. Step two, plasticity will step in. As you start to identify and give yourself time to have your prefrontal cortices mitigate the anger, because that's what happens, is that these things up here start to calm you down. As you take the time to analyze your anger and you let your prefrontal cortices work, then your anger will subside more quickly. And as that happens, your limbic portion of your brain, your anterior cingulate cortex, the portions of your brain that cause your anger will become weaker. Because as your brain uses and doesn't use portions of its existence, they atrophy and they grow. So if you grow your analysis, you grow your control of your emotion, that portion of your brain will get stronger, just like pumping iron. Yes, be like Arnold. And when you start to ignore or you start to mitigate the anger or whatever emotional reaction it is that you're having, if you start to control that better, that portion of your brain is going to weaken or become less in control of your consciousness, which is important because at the point that you're changing your plasticity of your brain, then you can get into a space that is much more controlling rather than being controlled by your emotions. Third, it has to do with a little plasticity as well, but it has to do with meditation. It has to do with strengthening the awareness that is beyond self. Meditation calms your default mode network up here and down in here, which is your stream of consciousness, which is most associated with your you, your ego, your sense of self. As the walls that define yourself start to dissolve and you start to see everyone and everything being connected to you and not being a slight against you, then your anger will reduce. And this has been shown in countless studies as well, where meditators over a period of time of even as little as 8 weeks are seeing dramatic decreases in anger issues. And that has directly to do with what you're doing to your brain in meditation, which is strengthening the calming areas of your brain and quieting the things that cause the noise and cause the emotional outbursts, and quieting your default mode network, quieting the self, quieting the things that get attacked. Okay? And so those are a 3-pronged approach to reducing the anger. Identify the process, identify the things that are within you that are being attacked. Identify your perception that it's an attack. And you can play with those things, change those things. 2, let plasticity work. 3, help plasticity through meditation. And you can handle your anger issues much better moving forward. Okay, so let's move into our next email. Okay, so moving on to our next email, it's a little bit different of a topic. Hey, Sean, love your stuff. Heard you first on Pat Flynn. By the way, if you guys are into passive income, go check out Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income podcast. Awesome stuff. He had me on there as a guest. We talked about the emotions of being in business and how to keep yourself on even keel, etc. Question. As we separate ourselves through using the me from negative emotions, okay, and so what Lucas is talking about there is, back in episode 6, there's a great exercise called the me to be able to remove you from the emotional reactions that you're having and bring you into a space that you can control them much better. Check out episode 6 if you're interested in that. Does that also then steal some of the joy found in positive emotions by separating us from them? Or are good emotions supposed to be felt in the true me or spirit me? Okay, so emotions themselves are unconscious, and they are reactions of our brain to help us prolong survival another day. So when something threatens us, something attacks us, something devalues us, then we have fear, anger, sadness, and all the family of emotions that exist. If time is involved, then we have worry or regret, future or past. All of these things are supposed to help us survive an extra day. They're an evolutionary influence. Same with happiness. Oh, look, I found water. Awesome. That's a great thing. Oh, that assists in your memory of identifying where the water is, where the shelter can be found, where the food is found. And that helps us survive another day. Well, positive emotions, as fun as they are still the unconscious process. Now, the cool thing about the Body, Mind, Spirit 101, and the cool thing about understanding the equation of emotion, and the cool thing about being able to control your emotions rather than being controlled by your emotions or taking control of your emotions after they start occurring, is that you can decide. You can decide not to let anger grow. You can decide not to let fear grow when it's initiated. You can decide not to let sadness grow when it's initiated. Or you can decide to let happiness grow. You can decide to let anticipation grow. You can decide to let the positive emotions flow through you when it's appropriate to do so. And so, while you're separating yourself from your emotions, the cool thing that happens is that you enter this space of this cool inner peace, of this cool, controlled Zen atmosphere. And you can weed out the negative emotions consciously and maybe allow the positive emotions to occur. I mean, joy is the state of mind. And see, this is the thing that I'm a little differing on than a lot of other folks who want to try to name emotions, things like that. Joy can be considered an emotion, but joy can also be considered a blissful state of mind in the absence of all or anything that would bother you. Joy, I believe, is a connection between us and everything else. And it's the realization of that connection that allows us to enjoy, as an action verb, to enjoy our existence, enjoy the environment, enjoy who we're with, because it's reconnecting us with the things that our mindful self would say, oh no, that's not us. That's not us. There's the thick black walls of me and not me, and those things are not me. And joy is when those walls come a-tumbling down and you reconnect with the things that are outside of you. You reconnect with nature. You reconnect with your family. You reconnect with your friends. You reconnect with quiet moments sitting in the lazy boy watching a football game. It's simply the experience. It's simply the state of mind that you exist within when you are reconnecting with something favorable to your life. So you can decide not to have the negative emotions, and you can decide to allow happiness to flow, to allow joy to exist in your mind. And so that's the difference. Can we fully separate from our emotions? I don't really think so, because I think that they're an unconscious process within the brain that simply occurs at a level that's below our regular consciousness. But when our emotions rise into our consciousness, like when we start to realize that we're angry, when we start to feel the sadness, the fear, or the family of emotions inside any one of those groups, we can take control of that. We can take control of the variables that have caused that and lessen its effect. We see the process happening, which separates us from it, as proven in the UCLA studies. We can then use plasticity to increase our ability to take control of those emotions when they occur. We can meditate, which then strengthens the areas of the brain that allow us to take control of those emotions when they arise. And we can simply consciously decide to be a gatekeeper. Let those good emotions through, let them occur, and then take control of the negative emotions as they arise. And that is when you are in full control of your emotional landscape. And that's an awesome place to be. If you guys have any questions or any topics that you'd like covered, or anything that you think needs just a little more coverage, send them in. Let me know. I will sometimes respond directly to your emails, and sometimes I'll grab those things and we'll put them on a podcast and let everybody listen to those answers, even though I ramble. Sorry. Hope things are well for you guys. Remember, we have links on the website if you'd like to donate, buy me lunch, buy me a beer, or whatever you want to do. Also, there are links to audible.com, audibletrial.com/IamSpirituality. You can go and get a free book at Audible. They have over 150,000 titles at this point. One of my favorites was the Steve Jobs biography, which was awesome. It's a very long book read by a professional voice actor. Extremely good if you want to pick that up. Instead of paying $40, if you're a member of Audible, you pay $11. You give one credit to get any size books. You can get a $50, $60, $70 book for $11. It's awesome. So check out those guys. Hope you guys are having a great week. Next week we'll be back with another good topic. Hope things are well. Talk to you soon. Peace.